20th century, United States, Soviet Union, war, fascism, communism, capitalism, Cold War, allies, enemies, witch hunt, Hollywood, cinema, blacklist, screenwriter, Dalton Trumbo. This film was released on 15th of November of 2015. The movie starts in 1947. Dalton Trumbo was Hollywood's top screenwriter, until he and other artists, because of their political beliefs, were jailed and blacklisted. Trumbo, directed by Jay Roach, recounts how Dalton used words and wit to win 2 Academy Awards and exposed absurdity and injustice under the blacklist, which entangled everyone from gossip columnist Hedda Hooper to John Wayne. Some actors of the film are John Goodman and Bryan Cranston. Just imagine how many changes a society goes through after winning one of the biggest wars of all time, World War I. This war set the stage for one of the world's global economic disasters, the Great Depression. It took 25 years for the stock market to recover. After this, the Third Reich was born. Germany, after losing World War I, had to sign the Treaty of Versailles that said that they had to pay reparations that are still being paid today. They felt that the treaty was very unfair, and this led to the rise of Hitler and also World War II. The instability created in Europe, the Great Depression, the Treaty of Versailles, the rise of fascism with Mussolini, Hitler and Franco, but mostly the Nazi Party and Hitler, were the perfect ingredients for the beginning of the World War, World War II. It's the only war to have used nuclear weapons until date. The belligerents were the Axis powers, Germany, Italy and Japan, and the Allies, France, Great Britain, the United States and the Soviet Union. This is not a victory of a party or of any class, it's a victory of the Great British Army as a whole. These were the words of Winston Churchill on 8 May 1945, when he officially announced the end of the Second World War. In the space of just 1 month, the Soviet troops entered Berlin. Italian dictator Benito Mussolini was killed, which led to the surrender of German troops in Italy. USA forces rescued thousands of survivors from the Dachau concentration camp, and Adolf Hitler committed suicide. However, the war continued to rage in the Far East. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, and the USA responded dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan surrendered soon after, marking the end of the war. The world's first atomic bomb was tested in the New Mexico desert with the Manhattan Project. The United States dropped its first atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In the aftermath of the World War II, it sparked a nuclear arms race during the Cold War. The Cold War was the great rivalry between the Communist Soviet Union against the United States. This was because they were two of the biggest superpowers in the world and a sense of competition started growing. It started in 1947 and lasted until the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. It was a political and cultural war waged by communists and capitalists. When the Soviet Union developed its first atomic bomb, humanity trembled at the prospect of a nuclear catastrophe. Their competition resulted in 2 proxy wars, the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Besides this, the paranoia and the terror spread due to ideological propaganda and advertising that both countries started to divulge about the opposite one, defaming each other. This led into a witch hunt that made a lot of innocent people being accused and processed just because of their ideologies of being an ally of the enemies and or a spy. This fear reached a point where Hollywood created the blacklist, a list with names of people that work in the industry of cinema, such as Trumbo himself, who were accused of having communist ties or sympathies. This blacklist targeted the people who could influence the consciousness of the American people, Hollywood. Some of them were jailed. The 10 of this list who refused to give evidence were named the Hollywood 10. The cinematographic sector was owned by a few wealthy businessmen, making it really difficult for the accused people to earn any money. Arlen here is a fictional character based on Alba, Bessie, Lester Cole, and three more. This character is used as a narrative resource. He is the only character who is not real, but a representation of a total of 5 screenwriters, known people of Trumbo between 1947 and 1960s.
I want this whole country to be different, top to bottom. If I get what I want, nobody gets their own lake.
Well, that would be a very dull life, don't
Yeah,
you think?
for you, not for the guys who built this. If I'm wrong, tell me, but ever since I've known you, you talk like a radical, but you live like a rich guy.
That is true.
However, Kirk Douglas was a real character, a very important one for the American culture. He was born in the 1960s, is an American actor and filmmaker. He hired Trumbo to write Spartacus, challenging the blacklist. He helped resurrect Trumbo's career and once said, "I'm proud of using his name and breaking the blacklist."
So, I'm doing a new picture, and I just got the script.
Sure. There must be 7 hours of entertainment there.
Not a single page is entertaining. But there's a good story in there, somewhere, about one man who tried to take on the whole world.
A similar character in the film to Douglas is Otto Preminger, since both of them helped Trumbo to break the blacklist. He was born in 1905 in Austria. He moved to the United States. He established the film noir genre. He required Trumbo to write his film Exodus while he was blacklisted, what helped him to recover his fame.
Well, there you go. Oh, hello. Hi, Sammy. Oh, do you know that Kirk Douglas gave me this bird?
It's a distraction.
No, not at all. I named him Sam Jackson. He wrote Spartacus.
Nevertheless, there was one character that didn't agree with Trumbo, since he protected American values above everything. She was Hedda Hooper.
Drinking alone?
Preferably.
And what are you up to these days?
You know, Hedda, another one of these and I just may tell you.
Oh, then I'm buying. Usual. Same again.
Yes, Miss Alba.
Hedda Hooper was born in the 1890s. She was an American gossip columnist with a lot of power and member of the UAC. During the blacklisting era, she destroyed reputations of many people with her articles. In the film, she is the antagonist. In 1947, Hollywood 10 were cited for contempt of Congress. The UAC inaugurates the Hollywood blacklist. 1950, 9 of the 10 are jailed. McCarthy inflames the witch hunt, making allegations saying that hundreds of communists had infiltrated federal agencies. 1951, the Rosenbergs are convicted of conspiracy to commit espionage. 1944, McCarthy is condemned for dishonoring the Senate. Also, Trumbo wins an Oscar for Roman Holiday. 1960s, President John F. Kennedy goes to the cinema to see Spartacus. Kirk Douglas and Otto Preminger credit Trumbo and break finally the blacklist. He was a screenwriter, born on December 9, 1905. Trumbo joined 9 colleagues in refusing to testify regarding their communist ties. The Hollywood 10 were blacklisted until the early 1960s. He ended up winning 2 Academy Awards for 2 scripts that he couldn't have credit for. Trumbo died finally on September 10, 1967.
This fear makes me feel so naive. I wish that
There is a sequence early in the film where Dalton and Nikki are horseback riding, and it's here the daughter asks her dad to explain communism to her. It's a moment that allows the viewer to see who this man was, what his thought process was, and how bad he wanted to be a good father. However, it never happened that way, as his daughter, Nikki Trumbo, explains.
no mind is the answer to that conundrum. Oh, I want to.
No, she chuckles, we never had a conversation like that one. That's made up. The real moment was more like me asking, "Daddy, are you a communist?" and him replying that he was. The follow-up question was something like, "Can I be a communist when I grew up?" And I wanted him to say that he'd be so proud of me if I was. Instead, he told me I had to be 21 before I could make decisions like that. I was so disappointed. Of course, what I wanted was his approval more than I wanted to be a communist, but I also think he didn't want to influence my political beliefs, so he wanted to distance himself a little bit from doing that until I was older. We saw him succeeding in the mid-40s, facing the House of Un-American Activities Committee in 1947, spending 10 months in jail in 1950s, and returning to work in secret, and not much more. Even though it's a biopic on Trumbo's life, we don't have to forget that it is also a Hollywood blockbuster, just made to criticize some things that everyone thinks that are bad, like McCarthyism, and to entertain people. But it doesn't touch any controversial topics. Not even the ideology of Trumbo is very clear. In the movie, we can see that he is a communist and that he is not a bad guy, but that's all. This film portrays the life of Trumbo in a very personal way, focusing on his relationship with friends, family, and how he did everything he could for the film industry. It is not a film that shows you how the Cold War was or anything like that. Through the historical information that we see in the film, you can have a general view of what that age was, but nothing further than that. It's just a simple film about a simple man that wanted to create good things for the people to enjoy. And that's it.